Is G.O.A.T the best version of the penultimate Thalapathy Vijay film that we as audiences deserve? Hell no. But it's still so much more fun. It's one of the most coherent Thalapathy Vijay films of recent times and deserves much more love from the audiences than it's getting. Let's dive right in. Honestly, the best way to enjoy this film would be to dive into it without knowing anything if possible. But just to give you a little gist of the film, let me try to make it short. Thalapathy Vijay plays a double role in this film. One, as a de-aged younger version of himself. Second, as MS Gandhi, a secret anti-terrorist squad agent whose colleagues include his own childhood friends Sunil and Kalyan, played by Prashant and Prabhudeva. He is a devoted husband to his loving wife Anu, who is played by actor Sneha, with Meenakshi Chaudhary playing the role of Sunil's daughter, who eventually turns out to be the love interest of the younger Thalapathy Vijay. With G.O.A.T, director Venkat Prabhu gives us a commercial Thalapathy Vijay entertainer that dives into all the facets of the actor. He's funny, he dances, he's emotional, when required he's ruthless, and sometimes absolutely sinister. The director also gets the core ingredient of every single masala entertainer right down pat. The supporting cast is splendid and the characters are also well written, spread across a very well woven narrative. The cameos, the twists and turns, everything works because the narrative is that well written. So where's the issue? The film has a few minor hiccups that prohibits it from being the absolutely perfect entertainer it could have so easily been. The two bare minimum expectations audiences have from a Thalapathy Vijay entertainer are: 1. The music needs to be at least memorable. With G.O.A.T, the BGM is at best generic and the soundtrack ranges from absolutely mediocre to forgettable. The second point being, keeping the enormous budget Thalapathy Vijay films generally have, there is a certain amount of competency expected from the visual language of the film. Now, don't get me wrong, G.O.A.T is very technically proficient, as in the de-aging has been done spectacularly well. Even for the teenager version, where there are slight hiccups in the de-aging, it's because the technology itself is at a very nascent stage. I mean, with all the money in the world, even Disney couldn't de-age Harrison Ford to its optimum results. So the team over here has done a pretty good job over there. The problem is when you have a chase sequence which is choreographed well as well on the streets of Moscow. In that case, it needs to translate more in a more epic manner on screen. It needs to look memorable. At best, it looks serviceable. It doesn't look sketchy. It's just not memorable enough. The visual language of the film doesn't stay with you as much as it so easily could have. Now, this isn't necessarily a detriment for someone like Venkat Prabhu, whose strengths are never music or cinematography. His strength lies in the writing. As good as his writing is, his film shines exactly as much. In G.O.A.T, there are only two particular places where he lets down his own writing. The biggest detriment to this film is how the songs are placed in the second half. After gruesome deaths, randomly dance numbers pop up, which is absolutely a major tonal shift and takes you out of the otherwise very interesting proceedings. In fact, the dance numbers could have very easily been placed at different points in the film. Spark could have very well been placed just before the pre-interval action sequence, while the other dance number can easily be placed in the first portion of the second half. It would have worked perfectly well for the entire narrative without causing any tonal shift and taking us out of the film completely. Additionally, while the female characters themselves have been written well, they do feel like living and breathing characters. The problem is, despite spectacular performances, the characters aren't utilized enough in the narrative, despite the fact that the characters' importance in the narrative stays consistently throughout. The presence has not been utilized enough, and that is a big disappointment because the performances are spectacular all across the board. Meenakshi, in fact, is a big revelation with whatever little she gets to do with her role. There's also some chatter about how Mohan plays a very subdued version of an antagonist as Menon, but for me, that worked in the film's favor because that helped me actually concentrate on the film's central conflict and the unleashing of the main antagonist of the film, which actually I'm going to use as a segue to a mild spoiler section. So if you don't want the spoilers, go down to the description below, skip to the next chapter, it's all there, so that your experience doesn't get spoiled. Now, the spoilers begin in 3, 2, 1. The central conflict of the film, that of Gandhi versus Sanjay, the younger version of Thalapathy, works perfectly well because it comes out of nowhere, it's full of twists and turns, and most importantly, the director gives Thalapathy Vijay the opportunity to be absolutely unhinged as a psychopathic terrorist. And he gives one of the most memorable performances of his own career in recent times. He is a sight to behold as Sanjay, and the entire conflict and the duality of his performance shines brilliantly in the second half, which actually makes the entire film a very wholesome movie going experience. Now, going back to non spoiler territory in 3, 2, 1. To sum it all up, GOAT isn't necessarily a must watch for one and all. But if you intend to watch the film, maybe later on OTT, then I suggest you give the film a watch today on a big screen, because this film calls for the community viewing experience. It's meant for the big screen experience. And primarily, there are very few global stars left right now who deserve to be seen on the big screen as many times as possible for as long as they keep making movies. Thalapathy Vijay is one of those rare actors, and this is just his second last film. Let's just keep watching him as long as we can, because we might miss this opportunity. And quite frankly, this is a film which people are going to be kinder to in the future, and I think it's the entire baggage of being his penultimate film that is causing the audiences to be slightly disappointed. So go in with measured expectations and you might just come out having a great time. I did, and I hope you do too. Like and share this video, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, click the subscribe button right now.